All right, doing a project for somebody, and they got a stack of these batteries. They're new, NOS, new old stock. This one has initials on it, which means something. This particular one has a big dent right here. So we're going to take the cover off of this. It's kind of like a tear down and see what happened. Make sure this is in good shape, and then we'll start stacking them up. There's the dent. And this is pushed in quite substantially. Let me get a ruler right here.
I can pull that out of there without removing the case. But you want to see inside, and so do I.
Well, we have to make sure it's not damaged. We're off by about 1/4 of an inch there. That's a fairly good crunch. We got to pull that dent out. I have a dent puller over at the house, but we'll go do that later. See if there's anything attached. And there's nothing attached. And that dent is just superficial.
But it probably won't reach its designated where it's supposed to insert to.
For the alignment point. But look, that dent's here, but there's no dent here.
Right.
So we're in good shape.
That's what I expected to find.
I didn't know.
Because we hadn't had a short or anything.
Yeah. Look at it. Would you just look at it? So we have our pogo stack. These are pogo pins on the top and then on the bottom. And it's passing through the negative conductor up to the next pogo stack. Positive conductor up to the next stack. You see the QA marks of the tightening of the screws. We have our sensor cables going in between.
Still in the right position, same position.
Yeah, they're in the same position. We have our sensor lines going between the two stacks, two sets of cables.
Nothing, no wire sticking out.
The bottom of the battery pogo, it floats. See that floating that it's got there? So when you lay this battery on top of the next one, the course guide pins are sticking up on the bottom battery. They go in here. The fine alignment pins go in this triangular hole and line up your pogo pins. And everybody's happy with this arrangement. So that's real nice, floating pogos on the bottom. And that compliance happens here with the, here we go, with the bus bar and with the cables. I did see, got to dig in here a little bit. There is, I guess it's RS485 or CAN, the upper battery cable to the BMS is here, and the lower battery cable that gets to the BMS is here. So they have a daisy chain. You don't have to plug Ethernet cables. Well, they're not really Ethernet. You don't have to plug RJ45 style connector cables between batteries. That happens with the pogos here. So, coming to our BMS, we have our RS232 cable going to the BMS. We have our dip switch lines here going to the dip switch input thing connector. We have status connectors here, status LEDs down in the bottom there. So when we boot this up, we can actually investigate what its status is that way. They've got the BMS here, has its balance leads, they're glued in. And yeah, BMS and temperature sensor leads are glued in.
BMS.
Battery management system. We have parallel 8-gauge cables.
Parallel. Oh,
Yeah,
you mean
so
the way they run?
yeah, this 8-gauge cable is paralleled. It's parallel, right? And so this one's crimped into one lug. That goes over and goes to our, that's a FET array for turning on and off the battery bank. The coming in of the negative conductor and the leaving of the negative conductor. The positive conductor going to here.
So you can't see the batteries, or
The batteries are here.
not allowed, or what?
There's a battery right there. We can dig a little bit deeper.
I don't. Not for me. Let's test.
Yeah, let's just boot it up and see. And then, well, we can't really boot it up until we stack it in the BMS. But we can measure some voltages here. And if we're in the right realm, and since we don't have any damage here at all, we'll just flatten out the chassis, make it look good again, and then this is going to be just fine. All right, let's check our state of charge according to the voltage. So do that, we get our meter here, and then what am I looking for? 50 volts or so, right? So I've got positive and negative, and then I have 49.9. So let's look at a chart of a 15S. I have the 16S batteries memorized, but the 15S, I can't do the math in my head. 15/16 of 51.2. That's probably 50. I don't know. Let's look at a chart. All right, for the ease of the video, I just printed out my working sheet. This is the January 2025 edition. A while back, I did install a HomeGrid system, 15S, and then I put the data that was available in that current chart. We're at 50 volts, which is somewhere between 60 and 90% full. And newer batteries are now being shipped at 30% state of charge for regulation purposes. Older ones are shipped at 50% state of charge, so I'm assuming this battery is somewhere in the 50s. And that's good. This battery is just fine. All right, let's get the BMS unboxed and stack this one battery by itself, and we'll stack all the individual batteries by themselves to make sure they're okay. Then we'll stack them together. The next step is to learn how to upgrade the firmware on each battery, and that'll be a nice little tutorial. All right, take the cables off. I have marked the connectors on the BMS. I have marked the cables that go to the BMS. I even marked the battery connectors, like I couldn't take a photo and remember how to put it back together. So now, the next step is to remove some cables. These are nice little terminal covers. Don't need to remove those. Remove these cables from here. Remove this cage, which is actually saved this battery from damage from the cover. And then I want to look at the cells. This is a real nice battery bank. I know I probably said that already, but I just wanted to see all the way inside. Stand by while we get down in there. Some of these connectors have glue on them. Let's see if this is one of the ones. Oh wait, maybe there's a button on the bottom. Yeah, there's a button. See that button? Let's look at that. Yeah, push that button, it unlocks the cable.
All right, so get in there, push the button. Push the button. You can even hear that click with the button. All right.
Let's get the cable management undone. And get inside here. Stand by. Oh, I have to find a 10mm socket. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. 10mm. Well, I do have a 10mm wrench standing by. A vintage Craftsman selection from 2001. Look at that, Craftsman. Who'd have thunk I'd still have a Craftsman 10mm wrench from 2001. Okay, removed a few screws from the cage that's holding this battery. Remove this screw, and that one, and this one, and that one. It's a magnet. Well, barely a magnet. Get that last one. No, that's not the last one. The next to the last one. Okay, and then the last one. Yeah. Okay, put that back in its hole. I don't know what happened. I gotta go find all those. Now, I'm gonna lift up the cover. I got to clear these cables. I probably need 2 hands. Okay, the cover is removed. Cover is removed. And we have some banding straps here. Cargo banding straps. keep this as a group. Let's peel off some layers here. Yeah, just don't need to peel that off, I guess. There's some, wait, I thought the batteries were standing on their bottoms. According to this, they're actually standing on their sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 5 cells this way. This is a 15S battery. So there's gonna be 3 group. Wait, what? Now what? Let me count that again. 1, 2, 3. There isn't a battery here. There is not a battery here. What? Now what? Oh, I see. 4, 4, 4, 4, 16, minus 1, 15. This battery could actually be a 16S battery. 16S, 16 batteries in series battery. But they chose very specifically not to make it a 16S battery because there's a fake battery here making it not 16S. I'm sure there's a reason. I would love to know it. I will find out and watch that training class to see why they chose this. But now I know. 3, 4, up and down. These batteries are probably upside down from these to get our negatives and our positives lined up. Comes up to here, that one, this so-and-so. Then our 15th cell. Not bad. I guess it's fine. There's a reason for doing this. All right, so now put this cage back on. How do we get the cage? Oh, well, that was easy. We got our balance cables. I did put the nuts here so I could save where they're located. Yeah, we put this back together right quick. Well, it's easy. 3 goes into 3. Okay, come on. Y'all aggravating. Now there's the pro tip. This little diagonal cut that I made with scissors, this is how this works. You don't open the Ziploc bag, which is a pain in the ass. You simply grab a tire wrap from this little cut, and now you have one in your hand. And then you can use your fingers to install the tire wrap. Just your fingers, one hand. Let me find that hole. Oh, it's down here somewhere. So then you put the tire wrap like this, and you push it, and then you get this end, and you get it started, and then you pull it. Now, obviously, for the camera, I've been crazy. One-handed tire wrap. Okay, let's put this thing back together to make sure it still boots up. Tighten that last screw, holding this cage down. Tighten. Put back my, oh yeah, let me just double check my torque here. Beep. All right, good. I don't know about that. All right. Plastic covers back on. Put this cover back on. Yep. Get those wires to stay there. Okay, let me get the meter and measure to make sure I still have volts right here between these two terminals. And then let's put this in the BMS clamshell. Boot it up. All right, phase 6 or whatever phase we're on. I got the HomeGrid BMS set up. I'm going to open this up, unboxing if you will, and get the clamshell out so you can see what we're doing here. HomeGrid batteries. Yeah, stand by. All right, cut the tape. Got some quick install guide. Here's the premise here. I have 3 of these batteries, and this box contains the base and the top BMS. So the idea here is to pull out the base and the top BMS, stack a battery, test the battery, do that 3 times, stack all 3 batteries, and then make sure everything works. So the first thing we'll do is get the foam out and get the BMS out. There's the top BMS. Let me do this off camera because reasons, but basically open the box and get everything ready to display. All right, stand by. All right, we got our pieces out of the box. This is the bottom foam, so we got some lugs that came with it. That's nice. Bus bars that combine the 2 terminals to one 4-aught cable. Same. We have data cables for from the battery to the inverter, and some bolts and screws for putting all this together. Nice. We have some earthquake brackets, and get in there, some other earthquake brackets. These might be for mounting it above the floor, but anyway, brackets. All right, let me get this cleared out so I can get my base tilted down and the BMS itself organized. Here we go. All righty, here we go. This is just the base. Be careful. This base is empty. It's about, I don't know, 5 inches tall or so. Nothing in there. Nothing nowhere, nothing no how. So if you wanted to modify this in a way to use it for storage, you could. This is our bottom section. All right, this battery is on the top. That's how it goes. The bottom pogos go into a void, and here's our top pogos. This dent was straightened out, and that looks good. And this is a coarse alignment pin for the battery stack. The fine alignment pins are here. You can see that little triangle. Here's my BMS, and this will go on the top here in just a second. Then we'll boot one battery up at a time until we make sure each battery is happy, charged and discharged. All right, let's get this BMS on the top of this battery. Okay, let me get these organized here. Okay, I started out with, I was gonna use this charger. It makes it simple because, you know, it's all in one here, but it's a 16S. It has 58.4 volts maximum, which is probably still too high for a 16S battery, in my opinion. This is a 15S, which means it has 15 internal battery cells in series. So then, since I couldn't use that, I went to the warehouse and I got an Outback inverter, 3600 watt, 48 volt, temperature sensor, old mate. I don't think I need the hub. It's not plugged in. A breaker, batteries. Now, I've set the dip switches according to the little chart that came with the battery. Bloop. Wait, page 1. Yep, right there. Set all the dip switches up to discover how many batteries you have. Set the first dip switch, blue one, the first blue one to up for a single stack, which I have. And set the second blue switch up at the end for the impedance matching setup, so and so. All right, and then I will actually stack 3 batteries total here in the second, once I get that far along. Then, in the end, I will set open loop because it's Outback. And I'm going to program the Outback. Let me make some room for my calculator. Now, I prefer using 3.45 volts per cell, based on a lot of YouTubers, and my own experience has been actually pretty successful. 3.45 times 15 volt cells, 51.75. Now, on the Outback, you can't set 51.75 because they have a weird 0.4 volt increment on the 48 volt system. Yeah, I know, this is old. This thing right here is almost 25 years old. 2020, I'm sorry, 20. This is 2025, and that's 2004 when this was made. The thing still works. So there we are. All right, and then the Outback integration guide from HomeGrid shows 52.5 volts. So I'll pick 52.4, and I'll do a 1 hour absorb on this one stack to make sure it's good. All right, stand by. A lot of shenanigans here. Okay, first of all, let's do that all up dip switch. Then we got our red switch is on, and then we power up the battery. Click, click. Okay, it found one battery. Oh, there's the other clicks. Okay, it found one, which there's only one, so I found the one. I'm going to turn it back off again. And then I'm going to open loop. The switch 1 is on. Open loop. No communication, I guess is what it's trying to say. And then power back up again. I think it's like a 10-second, whatever it is. Wait for it. Click, click. There we go. 100% state of health. And it says 100% state of charge. I don't know that yet. I've got my Victron shunt. And then, oh yeah, let me turn on the Outback inverter. Okay. Boot up. Good job, good job. Still working after 20 years. Good job. More clicks, more clacks. You know, it's providing power. Let's see here what we got. 50 volts. That lines up with, wait for it, 49.8. Close enough. Now, let me plug in my generator, which is this Schneider off-grid system. Oh, yeah. And then, don't do this crazy 6-way at home, kids. Now it thinks it has AC input. That'll take just a little bit to confirm. I don't know what a little bit is. A minute or so, 30 seconds. Let me get the iPad. Oh, there it goes already. Put the iPad, get the Victron software going. Don't know why I can't operate my fingers all of a sudden. Oh yeah, here we are. 52 volts. So this battery is pretty relatively full, otherwise it wouldn't be 50 volts already, 52. We're putting 22 amps in it. Yes, I'm not going to change the pin number. It's a brand new shunt. All right, 52 volts, run around there somewhere. 20 amps coming in, power, so-and-so. I'm going to let this completely fill up until, well, I'm going to let it absorb for an hour at 52.4 volts. I did program that. I'll show you how to do that here on the mate of the Outback. We'll go to the installer password. Check. Settings. Inverter. Battery charger. I set 52.4, which is a little bit higher than the 3.45 volts I was telling you about, and a little bit lower than the manufacturer's recommended setting by just 1/10 of a volt. Now, none of this is really calibrated. I think we're in the right ballpark. But, oh yeah, we're already starting to taper, which means this battery is probably full, and we'll just move on from here. It's a working battery. Yeah. After a little while, I'll maybe remove this one and add one of those, or I'll just stack them all three together. This is the only one that had tape on it that said it was bad. All right, diagnosis. We're at the hospital where the patient is recovering. I'll let this absorb finish for a minute, and then we'll go on. Now we're in off-grid mode. Stay there. Then let's turn the heater on. Yeah. Heater. Inverter. Inverter's making 1.5 kilowatts. We're getting 35 amps from the battery. Voltage is still good. Let's run it for a minute. The battery thinks it's actually making 1600 watts. 48.8. Now, I've kind of memorized my 16S lithium batteries. It'll take me a minute to rememorize a soft AGM style lead acid battery where the voltage drops. But, well, what is low voltage cutoff on this thing? 46.9. Well, it's going to take a minute to get 46 out of this battery because, you know, lithium curves are pretty flat. Now, let this finish until we get to 46. I think we're not going to have any problems with the status of this battery or those two. Now, I was going to stack them here. The workbench can handle it. This 2x6 frame can handle the weight, but can I get my personal self, can I get a battery this high in the air? Not quite eye level, but pretty dang close. And then the BMS will be at eye level. So I'm going to move the whole operation to the floor maybe. Or I'll test this in a different location. Okay, here we go. We're in good shape. Everything is great. The HomeGrid battery was moved to its final home. Everything appears to be working, but we'll keep monitoring it to make sure that third battery is still performing like it should be. Update to follow, and thank you for watching. I appreciate it.